All right, what is up, internet? So I came across this Reddit thread in r/EDM production where people were trying to figure out how IMANU created this really vibey house track. The god himself, IMANU, dabbled in some house, and I can't stop listening to this. I know this is some sidechain low-passed 1/16 saw chord playing, but everything just falls into place with a vocal and continuous chords that sound almost like future bass with some re-space driving it. So here's the song in question. I won't play the entire thing, but I'll play enough so you can get the characteristics that they're getting at. So definitely some really cool and interesting characteristics in the beginning of the song here. It definitely sounds very future bassy. Let's go to the drop here so you can hear how that sounds. So yeah, you can definitely hear that saw chord kind of layered on top of something else. We'll get into more of what I think that is. I highly recommend you check out this track. This is the first time I've heard of IMANU, and he's got some really cool drum and bass stuff. But anyways, if we go back to the Reddit thread here, you can see some of the answers here. Probably swing, plucky sounds, compression. That'd be created using modulation within the synth. Sounds like an LFO set to pulse wave. Sounds like triplets on the synth mixed with some heavy compression. If you go through this thread, which I'll have linked in the description below, I think people come close to how IMANU is creating the sound, but I don't really think they get at the main characteristic of what he's doing. So let's start at the beginning of the song with these interesting textures. Okay, so the way that you recreate this is not something that you can just like make in Serum. This, to me, has the hallmark sound of a granular synthesizer. And what I think he's using, well, actually what I know he's using is something like Quanta. So Quanta is a granular synthesizer. What a granular synthesizer will do is it'll take a sample and it'll chop it up into really tiny small pieces that you can control with like the grains knob, for example, and you can control the length of those grains. And then it will replay those samples back in a really fast and random order based off the parameters that you tweak within the synthesizer. I think Quanta is a really good one. Let me give you an example of what this sound effect sounds like. I just have some medicine atmospheres here. We'll drag this into Quanta. I'm going to turn down the level on the oscillator, and I'm going to turn up the level of the main sound. Right off the bat, this is what you get. This really cool atmospheric sound. So if we listen to the song, we can hear that we have this really glitchy like texture in the beginning. So the way that you would recreate that in Quanta is you would, first of all, you would turn down the random on the grains all the way. And if I turn down, and let's just bring down the grains all the way to 1. So right now, I'm only getting 1 grain. If I turn up the length of that grain, you can hear that it's just playing a tiny part of the sample. I can move the position around to take a different part of the sample. Let's turn up the grains now. Bring down the length. Okay, now we're starting to get pretty close to the characteristic of that glitchy texture. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to recreate it exactly because we don't have the same sample that IMANU is using, but we can even change the shape of the grain to give it a different texture. And keep in mind that this is completely before any sort of processing. He's probably putting this through like an OTT, some EQ, some other distortion effects. This is just straight out of Quanta right now. Anyways, earlier on in this video, I also stated that I know that IMANU is using Quanta, and that's because I did a little bit of research and I found a live stream where he was actually using Quanta.
I don't even know what the fuck those blue dots are, man.
So that definitely confirms my initial suspicion that the intro was made with a granular synthesizer. Anyways, if we go to the drop here, you have this really fluttery sound effect. There's definitely like some saw chords on top. You can easily recreate that in any sort of synthesizer. This is my best recreation here in Phaseplant, and that's what this sounds like. It's a very simple sound to recreate. It's just a saw wave. I got a low pass filter on it. Cutting out some of the low end here. This right here is actually not doing anything. I don't know why that's here. This can be gone. And then I have a 1/16 LFO that's automating the cutoff of this nonlinear filter. You don't need a nonlinear filter to recreate this. You could use a regular filter. I just like using a nonlinear filter because I think it adds a lot of interesting characteristics to your sound. And then here I just have multipass with like an OTT clone. If you click in here and go into dynamics, they have like their version of OTT. And then just the limiter. And then I also forgot the sidechain. That's also a very important thing to add to this. I just got a Kickstart at 80%, and that changes the sound quite drastically. And the sidechain is what gives the sound that really bouncy feel. So yeah, not perfect, but that'll at least give you a general idea of how to recreate that sound. I also do think that he has some Quanta layered underneath. And the way that you can recreate that really bouncy, fluttery effect in Quanta is you can just go to the FEG section here. Let's remove the first point, and let's remove this point too. So we just get this. Let's turn this to sync as well. And let's bring this to like maybe 1/4 and add a point and just make like an LFO shape, something like this. Make it shorter. I'm just gonna mess around, try another sample. Let's add some sidechain to that. Maybe some reverb. Just doing some basic EQing too. And just for fun, let's add OTT, see how that sounds. Throw in different samples, get something cool. Yeah, I could spend all day messing around with Quanta. It's quite a unique granular synthesizer. If you're also looking for other recommendations, I think Pigments 2 or Arturia Pigments 2 also has a really great granular engine. All right, super short video for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other content if you haven't already. I got a lot more sound design tutorials coming in the future. Peace.